Hello everyone, I hope all of you are doing well. In this lecture, we are going to discuss the issue of anti-defection. We are going to discuss the law that was brought about. So, anti-defection law has been in the news with respect to the issues of the Rajasthan, the Sachin Pilot case that is going on. So, it's predominantly in the news. So, we are going to discuss from that perspective. But even a month before that, for instance, in the case of Bihar, the defection law was again imposed. Then before that also last year, every year anti-defection, something to do with anti-defection is there in the news. Some or the other occurrence is taking place. So anti-defection law is something that is mentioned in the constitution. That means it is mentioned in the books. So it covers the static portion, and it is something that has been in the public opinion also. There is discussions, celebrations, people are going to the court. So that makes it very important from the functioning of the democracy. And when it makes it important from that many perspectives, definitely it is important for UPSC civil services. So in this particular lecture, we are going to discuss every single aspect about anti-defection, from the background to the law that was there, the concerns with the law, and the reforms that are associated with. What reforms, what are the things that are required to improve upon that law. So we are going to discuss all of it in totality, and once the session is over, I'm going to discuss actually how this question can be asked in mains, UPSC mains, the analytical part. Prelims, I'll tell you what are the facts are there, but mains I'm going to cover from that perspective. I'll share the questions. So you can write down your answers write it in your handwriting you can write, and share with me your answers on my Telegram channel. That is, the link is given over here. I will also put it on my description box. So it's a two-way communication where you can post your answers and I can give you the feedback on your answers. So that is there. Peer review also takes place. Now coming to the issue of anti-defection, and before that, what all we are going to cover in this class. So basically we are going to cover the background of defection, how it came about, the need for the law, the provisions that are there, with preferably by using examples. For example, the events of Sachin Pilot. So it just makes it easy for us to understand. The points are there in the slide also, it's there in the books also, but we'll try to relate it with the current affairs. The concerns, reforms, the judgments, the law commission, the point of view. So all of this we are going to cover in this lecture. Now coming to the background of it. So the first of all, it is about the anti-defection law that we are saying. So to understand anti-defection law, we need to clearly define what is defection. What is this word defection? Defection is basically a situation where a person from a political party, for simplicity's sake, from a political party defects to a different political camp, or takes a position or a stand which is contrary to his parent political party. Let's say Congress, a person from the Congress, let's say Sachin Pilot, right? Maybe he defects in future, who knows, he defects to a different political party, BJP, or somebody from BJP defects to Congress. Then in that case, anti-defection law will be applicable. But keep in mind, the anti-defection law is only applicable for those people who are elected representatives. People who have been elected to the legislature, or who are representative of the people in the house. So this is true for the legislative assembly and the level of states. It is true for the parliament level also, be it Lok Sabha, be it Rajya Sabha, but it is the assembly, the house of the parliament, Lok Sabha, whatever. So he should be the representative of the person. So it is applicable to all of them. It is also applicated for nominated members. I should just make it very clear. Not only elected, but it is also applicable for nominated members. Somebody has been nominated to the party and he takes his political stance. So in that case also anti-defection law will be applicable. So this is something for prelims also you need to keep in mind. So this is defection, where a person says the party stand is certain, and a particular person or a particular group of people in this political party, they have certain grievance, they have certain discontent, or maybe a political aspiration, or just greed, that they move from one camp to another. So that is defection. And the law that is brought about to arrest the situation of defection is known as anti-defection law. Now the problem of defection was something that the political defections started in the late 1960s. We all know that Congress played a very important role in getting the country independent. It was under the leadership of Nehru. And in India, all across India, be it at the level of center or be it at the level of states, the Congress was dominating. So Congress was dominating, they had the majority all over. So this problem did not arise so much. But post this period, so 1960s, 1967, those period, there were issues of number of defections taking place. In fact, in 1967, this phrase got to emerged, that is Aaya Ram, Gaya Ram. So this is associated with something known as, this is associated with defection basically. Aaya Ram, Gaya Ram. So in 1967, what happened was, in Haryana, there was this person known as Gaya Lal. He contested the election as an independent candidate. He contested the elections, he won, definitely he won as an independent candidate. And later he joined Congress, and after that he formed a different rival political camp. Then again he joined Congress, then he again went to this group, and then again he came back to Congress. So all of this happened in a period of just 9 hours. So eventually the Congress person, Rao Birendra Singh, who engineered his defection, Gaya Lal's defection to the Indian National Congress, in a press conference he said that Gaya Lal, he is calling him Gaya Ram, has become Aaya Ram. So this was such an extreme case, it was one of the worst phases where defection was so severe that a person was defecting to so many other camps. It sounds funny, but imagine the implication on the stability of the government. So this is how this phrase came about. And this is used commonly with respect to the anti-defection, the problem of defection basically. So this was there 1965, and eventually during the time of Rajiv Gandhi, the constitution was amended. They said enough is enough, the defection is creating a lot of chaos in the political functioning. Especially in a case scenario where no party is able to form majority, a person moves from this camp to that camp and it destabilizes the government. Sometimes the people are given, the members of the political party are given cash incentives, or on the basis of posts, promise of particular post, and they are defecting. So this is also known as horse trading. So to stop this evil of defection, this unethical practice, a law was introduced by making an amendment to the Constitution. This amendment is also known as 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act. And this introduced the 10th schedule to the Constitution. A new schedule was added to the Constitution, and this has provisions with respect to anti-defection. I hope all of this is clear till now. So a law was introduced for this purpose, anti-defection. Okay. Now, if a law has been introduced, so let's see what are the basic provisions of this particular law. 52nd Amendment Act, 10th Schedule. The basic provisions. So the anti-defection law says that if a particular person, let's say there is a Congress government, the Congress has majority, this is the Rajasthan Assembly. The Congress Chief Minister is Ashok Gehlot, and there is this. We are going to discuss the provisions now. Sachin Pilot is there. There is a concern who is defecting. We don't know for sure he is defected, but signs are there that he is defecting to whatever party, be it BJP or be it as an independent. We do not know. So this is happening. I'm trying to use contemporary example and discussing the provisions. They are all listed in the future slides. Okay. And there is obviously Sachin Pilot over here. I'll write Sachin Pilot, right? Okay. So there is a concern that this person, Sachin Pilot, who contested on the Congress ticket, he may move to a different political party or he may become independent. So as a result, Sachin Pilot has not been responding to the high command of the political party that is in Delhi. He is not responding to the Chief Minister and the directives that are being given to the Congress. So there is a concern over here. So the Congress has gone to the House and they have put up notice with respect to defection. That why not declare you defect, that you have defected from the political party or you have voluntarily given up your membership of Congress. So they have approached the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Rajasthan. So this is true for all the states, irrespective parliament or whatever. Speaker, chairperson, whoever is the head of the House. Now it is for the Speaker to decide, has the person, be it in this case Sachin Pilot, has he voluntarily given up his membership to his political party, Congress, by not taking a stand which the Congress government is taking? This stand could be anything. It could be with respect to voting in a bill, voting for a bill of the House, or just on the basis of attendance in the Legislative Assembly, whatever. So it is for the Speaker, it is the prerogative of the Speaker to decide if the person has voluntarily given up his membership or not. And whatever decision the Speaker takes will be final and it cannot be questioned in the court of law. So this is the important provision of the 10th schedule of the Constitution or the anti-defection law. So let me just repeat. A person has to have voluntarily given up his membership from his political party. This person can be an independent also, as per the anti-defection law. We'll discuss it later. But basically, this person is said to have defected. The Speaker will decide. No other person. It is not the governor. It is not the election commission. It is the Speaker or the chairperson of the Legislative Assembly. Let's say it is the case of Rajya Sabha, where there is no Speaker, then the chairman of the House. So it depends on the scenario. Whatever decision this person takes, that decision will be final. Right. Now imagine the scenario. The Speaker in this case belongs to the Congress party. Congress party, because they have majority in the House, they represent more than 50% of the people. So when the elections to the post of Speaker would have taken place, it must be the Congress person who get their post. So this person, Speaker, has a political leaning, and he may go by, the Speaker is expected to be neutral, but he may go by the stand of his own parent political party, maybe in the interest of ensuring that this party retains the majority or is able to keep the government intact. He may not be objective. There are concerns associated with it, the 10th schedule. So this is there. Now in this case, can the role of the Speaker be questioned? There is a concern with respect to the objectivity of the Speaker, if the Speaker is objective or not on this particular case. There is a concern. Who will question this office of Speaker? There is a concern. The 10th schedule says it cannot be done. This is final. Second concern it brings about, let's say in this case Sachin Pilot. Sachin Pilot says that the Congress government is not performing as required. There is corruption that is taking place. He has his own grievances also which are not being addressed, not being heard. So he has certain grievances against it, and he says my words are not being, nobody is listening to me. Now when I'm speaking my mind out, you're putting me under the defection charge. If the defection charge is proven, this person will lose his seat to this legislative assembly. He'll have to go back to the electorate, the constituency from which he belongs, and he has to win back the election. So the person loses the membership of the house in the anti-defection law. Again, something very important. So if the speaker says so. Now Sachin Pilot is saying that it is affecting my freedom of speech and expression. Fair enough. And why not less Sachin Pilot? What about this case of, let's say GST is there, or any important bill is there, which affects the interests of the people. Now certain people, we all know that the inner party democracy is not very strong in our political parties. Let's say there's a case on demonetization or GST, and it has to be discussed in the parliament. The High Command says that you have to take this particular stand only. Right? The people of the assembly are not being taken into confidence, or the concerns their particular constituency has with respect to the proposal of the government. The elected representative is basically belonging to the constituency, he is representing the constituency. So if something that his constituency is having an issue with, he has to bring it forward also at the same time. That is a responsibility he has as he is the elected representative of the people. So the anti-defection law, to an extent there is an impression that anti-defection law is curbing the right of free speech. And it is also curbing the special privileges the member of the parliament or the legislative assembly has, because he is the representative of the people. He is not able to take a stand specifically when it is contrary to the government. Demonetization, there may be some in the BJP who may not agree with it, some may disagree with it. Right? The people may have, the constituency would be saying that you please say these things in the parliament. So whatever could have taken place. But as per the anti-defection law, a person has to go by whatever their party is saying, the political party is saying. If he doesn't do that action, then he can be charged with anti-defection law. So that is a legitimate concern that is there, that it is affecting freedom of speech of the elected representative, which is very serious and a matter of concern. So that is a concern that needs to be discussed. In fact, I have framed a question on that also. So we are looking at the issue of speaker. We are looking at the issue of freedom of speech of a particular person, of the elected representative. Right. And most recently, with the issue of can the person be declared as voluntarily given up his membership to the political party? To what extent, as a person, does he formally resign from the political party, or simply his conduct says that on the basis of the conduct, can they say that it is defection has taken place, or he has voluntarily given up his membership? So that is also yet to be defined very clearly. So there are certain ambiguities, and all of this brings about certain concerns. And most importantly, it says that the speaker's role is final. So the question arises, does it violate the basic structure of the constitution? The basic structure of the constitution says that judicial review is the basic structure of the constitution. But the 10th schedule of the constitution is saying that the decision of the speaker is final. What if the speaker does not strictly go by the laws that are there, or there are procedural inconsistencies? So what is the role of the judiciary in that light? So that also we'll discuss in this class. So these are the issues that are with respect to the anti-defection law. So key provisions are right to dissent, the concerns, voluntarily giving up of membership, the role of the speaker, the judiciary, etc. So we'll just read certain provisions over here. So about disqualification, and when it says disqualification means a person is disqualified. he's an MP or an MLA, if the anti-defection law is sustained, then in that case, the person no longer remains the member of this assembly. So be it the parliament or the legislature, he is no more the MP or the MLA. He has to go back to the constituency, win the election. Okay. So if a member of a house belonging to a political party voluntarily gives up membership or votes or does not vote in the legislature contrary to the directions of his political party. Political party says, let's say BJP, they say that you have to vote on GST. Somebody has a concern that I don't like GST. There are certain concerns with it. Somebody is okay with it, but there are certain people who do not like it. So he does not want to vote. His constituency also does not like it, but he has to vote according to it. Anti-defection law. So if a political member, elected member, votes or does not vote in the legislature, he goes contrary to the directions of his political party. But he can obviously vote against the political party provided he has taken prior permission from the High Command. The 10th schedule is also applicable for independent candidates. So not only for the people who are from Congress or BJP who have contested their elections on the basis of a membership of a political party, but even for independent candidate, a person who was independent, who came independently to the political party, even he can be charged with anti-defection law. If an independent candidate joins a political party after the election jeeta and he moves to Congress or BJP, so in that case anti-defection law is applicable. It is also applicable for nominated members. So the defection law is not only applicable for elected representatives. For convenience sake, we say that it is a person who has been elected to the house, but it is also for nominated members. For example, the nominated members in the Rajya Sabha, right? Or in the case of the legislative councils, or some exception has been made. So if a nominated member joins a party 6 months after he becomes a member of the legislature, 6 months after, prior, not within 6 months, but 6 months after, very important. Fine, so this is the provisions on which a person can be disqualified, the conditions that are to be done. Who will disqualify? The chairman or the speaker of the house. Doesn't matter which house, nothing has been given in the constitution. So, but it just has to be the presiding officer of the house. Simple as that. And please don't be confused with election commission, governor. Nothing is there. It is only the chairman or the speaker. So prelims might try to confuse you with that. Right. Okay. Now with the special case of mergers and splits in the political party. Right. Certain political party merges with a different group for whatever reasons. So in that case, what has happened? Let's say a political party A in future date merges with B and they become one. There is a concern that it may happen that certain members of A say, "Nahi, we will not work with party B, we don't like it." So they may choose to remain outside of it. They may choose to remain outside of that arrangement. Now, does that mean a member has defected? He didn't know, this particular candidate did not know what will happen in the future. So in that case, certain exceptions have been given. A person shall not be disqualified if his original political party merges with another. So this arrangement has been given, but there is a condition to it that this exception that is there shall operate only if not less than 2/3 of the members of a party in the house have agreed to merge. So the condition is the exception will be provided only if not less than 2/3 members of political party A decide to merge with B or whichever group. That is only when it is permissible. Exception is there. If it is less than that, then it's a different scenario. So this is all about the provisions of the anti-defection law that we discussed. If you have any queries, you can always mention in the comment box, or you can always interact with me on my Telegram channel, which I'm very active on, the group, answer writing group that I have. Now, with respect to defection, so a law has been introduced keeping in mind certain things. It wanted to address certain things. So it has certain positives, it has certain drawbacks. So the positive is the anti-defection law acts as a deterrence. If a particular person defects to a different political group for whichever reason, so it acts as a deterrence, that in the sense that if a person defects, he may lose his membership to the house. So in a way, it provides stability to the government. Now, defection also takes place in such scenarios where the majority is very thin. A political party, the majority is very thin. So certain members, if they go to this particular camp, then in that case, they form the majority. So normally such scenarios that take place. So it provides stability to the government because the government is formed with the political party which enjoys majority in the house. It ensures that the candidate elected with party support and on the basis of the party manifesto remain loyal to the party policies. A candidate who has been, let's say Congress, BJP. So a person from the Congress. A person from the Congress has come because the Congress has released the party manifesto. The people have actually voted for the Congress, and the candidate the Congress has been putting, they are voting for that because he's representing the party. Therefore, he has been able to get the seat. He is able to win the election. So if this person, let's say a person who's contesting on the Congress ticket and he moves to BJP, which is a different ideological group, so it means that the person has not been loyal to his electorate in a way. People voted for certain things, certain ideas, and he's moved to this party and he's standing for different ideas altogether. So this happens, right? Vice versa, it keeps happening. So anti-defection law would ensure that the persons remain intact. They don't defect from one camp to the another, and therefore in that sense they remain loyal to the party policies, the manifesto, whatever promises that they have made to their electorates. And naturally, the anti-defection law also promotes party discipline. If the political party says that you have to be in the assembly, you have to vote in a particular way, they have to do it. If they don't do it, they will be disqualified under the anti-defection law. So this is the positive that is brought about because of the anti-defection law, which is very important because if one remembers the period of the 80s and the 90s, when there were the coalition governments, the government could fracture very easily. So this scenario was very important, especially in that light. Now the concerns are, which I have pointed out, one of these are the dissent, the issue of dissent, the speaker, etc. Other thing is that it reduces the accountability of the government to the legislature and the people. Don't know if the government will be stable or what happens to the government, so we do not know about it. It curbs the right to dissent against the party policies. Whatever the political party says, they have to go up in accordance with that. So that is a matter of concern associated here. Right. So now coming to what judiciary has said. See, even now, let's say we are talking about the Sachin pilot because it's a contemporary thing, but even in the past also, a person who has defected, let's say, he feels that the party has been unfair to it, the speaker has been unfair, the system is unfair, and he moves the court against anti-defection, like in this case Sachin pilot is doing. So in ways, the Supreme Court, especially the Supreme Court, the High Courts, respective courts, have discussed and deliberated on this issue. Is it constitutional? Is it not constitutional? Can they the judiciary review the role of the speaker or not? So all of these things have been discussed and deliberated. So we're going to discuss from the judiciary's perspective. What is their stand on it? With respect to the right to freedom of speech and expression, there is a concern that the elected representative, is losing his right to freedom of speech, freely express his criticism of the party policies. There are concerns associated with it. So in a landmark case, which is also known as, the pronunciation is really hard, Quijotto-Holohan case, right? Quijotto-Holohan case. So in this case, the Supreme Court said that anti-defection law is legitimate. This judgment basically was because they wanted to review the issue of judicial review. Is it violative, the provision that, the decision of the speaker is final? Uske liye tha. So they wanted to study this, but in that light, they also studied the issue of freedom of speech also. Yeah. So in this, the court said that the provisions do not subvert the democratic rights of the elected members. Sachin Pilot is saying that I'm not able to criticize the government, and many others have said so. But the court has said that, it's not subverting the democratic rights. There is a reason for it. He says, the court has said that anti-defection law is basically for the purpose of curbing the issue of defection. He says, in general, the members have the right to speak and express themselves. Article 19 is very much intact, and the provisions of the special privileges of the parliamentarians or the members of the state legislative assembly are also intact. In general, they are intact. It also says that the anti-defection law has provisions, has made certain provisions in which the permission can be taken to stand against the party policies. If the member has taken prior permission or is cordoned by the party within 15 days from such voting. So such exemptions are there. So in that light, yes, maybe pretty much they feel, the court has felt that it is not curbing the freedom of speech and expression. Ye hai. Now coming to the issue whether on the issue of if a person has voluntarily given up that membership. Voluntarily given up the membership. Does that mean a person has simply resigned and that is voluntarily given up? Or his conduct, a person keeps saying something against this political party, and on one hand he says that I belong to this party, this camp A, but he keeps in the public forums, his conduct suggests that he is anti that particular party. So in this particular case, Ravi Nayak versus Union of India, the court expressed that the voluntarily giving up of membership is subjective, and it can be inferred from the conduct of the elected representative. So this is there. What if there is a scenario where a member, let's say the Congress member, Sachin Pilot in this case, what if there is a scenario where Sachin Pilot, because of his protest against the Congress, he is expelled, the connection is gone, and now he decides, hypothetically, he decides to join BJP or form an independent party. Would that amount to defection? Can this person be disqualified if he does it after being expelled? The court said yes. The person can be the person will lose his membership, or he'll be disqualified from the legislative assembly. If he joins a new party after being expelled, he can be said to have voluntarily given up membership of his party. So even this is even when a person has been expelled from his political party that he belonged to. So this was in Vishwanath versus Speaker, Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly case. Now coming to the very important topic with respect to the role of the speaker, the chairman. Does his judgment have the final say? Whatever he says is final and the judiciary cannot look into it. What if the speaker has a malified motivation over there? The speakers are expected to be neutral, the presiding officer, but considering the fact that he is a member of a political party and he has his futures linked with that party, can this person be expected? There is a concern associated with it. So in the Quixote Holohan case, the Supreme Court had said that this speaker or the chairperson, he is basically acting as a tribunal where he is listening to the viewpoints of different parties, and based on that he is giving a judgment. He is adjudicating on a particular issue, and since he is doing it, his decisions can be reviewed by the judiciary. So ये तो होगा judiciary. But at the same time it says that the court cannot interfere in the proceedings of the house. It is only afterwards it can do. So these are the issues, or these are the observations that the court has made in this regard. Now we have seen that there have been certain drawbacks that have been brought about, and there is a need for reforming the system, reforming this law. We need the defection law for sure, but then it is coming at a cost. Can we tweak the system, anti-defection law, so that corrections can be made? So various committees were formed for this purpose, and keeping in mind the judgments of the court also, to review this particular law and suggest reforms. So basically, these are the committees which you can read. Basically, these committees have said that there is a need to define what is voluntarily giving up of membership. It should be clearly defined. Fine. There is a need to clearly define what is voluntarily giving up of membership, because there is some concern that, we are saying that the speaker may be subjective. There may be a bias here. But if it is clearly defined that these are the things that amount to defection or giving up of membership, if it's clearly defined, then the scope of ambiguity gets reduced quite a bit. So it should be defined. Second thing, it says it is questioned about the role of the speaker. So we all know there is a concern associated with role of speaker. She says, the committees have said basically that the issue of disqualification should be such that the case should go to the Election Commission of India. They should see this is an independent body. It's not like the speaker who is the member of a political party. It's an independent body. The terms are secure, etc. So this group should evaluate if a person is said to have defected or not, after taking into account the different arguments, and give its recommendations to the president or the governor, the case may be. Right? They may give the recommendations, and this recommendation should be binding. So the concern that the speaker is not objective, the speaker has certain political leanings. So those concerns can be addressed if we follow this path. Okay. So the first thing is voluntarily giving up of membership, and the second thing is with respect to the role of speaker. Now the third thing is with respect to pre-poll electoral fronts. Let's say there is a scenario. Remember the Bihar elections that had taken place some 2-3 years back? The people have formed a pre-poll that we have formed a Mahagathbandhan. BJP was a very strong party, and they formed different political parties. They formed a pre-poll electoral front, which they call it Mahagathbandhan. And they said, fine, we are weak, fine. We will not fight amongst themselves. We will fight against one political party. Maybe because it's from a different ideology or for whatever reasons. Now people have voted to, let's say the people have voted to Mahagathbandhan, and the people voted for Mahagathbandhan, or people voted for BJP. So naturally, people who do not subscribe to the policies, they would have gone with this alternative front or the pre-poll alliance that is there. Now tomorrow, what if there, let's say, different parties are there, JDU, Congress, RJD, whatever parties are there, they decide tomorrow that they will join BJP. Right. This is, I'm giving the example of Bihar. So let's say tomorrow they say that we move to BJP. So come to think of it, the people who have voted, it's wrong on their part actually, because they have been wronged by these parties moving to that. Technically speaking, it's not defection, but it's a bit, there is an unethical aspect over here. So the Law Commission 170th report 1999, very important one. They say that the pre-poll electoral fronts should also be treated as political parties. So they should also be under the aspect of defection. Udhar bhi hona chahiye. The Constitution Review Commission says that the vote which is cast by a defector to topple a government should also be treated as invalid. So it should be treated as invalid. Right. Okay. My idea is basically that these are the things which you can read. So I've just summed up the points for you. And when you're writing the answer, you cannot write so much, right? So you'll have to concise yourself. So I just segregated the points and have presented over here. Now coming to the main part for which we have studied so much, that is the exams that we're going to give. So these are the questions that I have presenting to you. So the first question is, what are the grounds for disqualification of a member of state legislature under the anti-defection law? Question mark. Quote relevant provisions in your answer. What are the grounds for disqualification and relevant provisions? Now this is a 150 word. Such questions, this is a very factual question and you have to clearly articulate the points that we did in the earlier class over here. So I'll just show you the slide. So these are the provisions for disqualification. So all of this has to be mentioned in the format the question is asking you. So 150 words you have to write in a concise way. Nothing else is required. You're not expected to give your observations on it. You're not to pass a judgment. You have to simply to state that this is the law for anti-defection. 10th schedule was added. That much you can write. And after that, these are the provisions. The person should have been voluntarily giving up his membership. Right? So these are the provisions. At best, you can mention about the judgments, some of the judgment. For example, the voluntarily giving up of membership is a subjective thing. It's not on face value that just somebody has resigned and given it. No, it can be also subjective, as given in the Ravi Kumar case, Ravi Nayak case. Sorry. So at that liberty you have, because the judgments of the court is basically an interpretation of the law. So in that right, you will be justified. But it has to be 150 words, nothing else other than that. No observations, no views, no criticism, nothing. Such questions have been asked in mains in the recent times. Now coming to the second question. Do you think there is a need for the review of the 10th schedule of the Constitution? 10th schedule of the Constitution. Justify your views. So the second question is the analytical question where you are expected to bring out the issues with the 10th schedule. You have to actually first say what is the 10th schedule, the anti-defection law, state the provisions, the need for the law and the concerns. And all of this you have to do by taking support of the arguments that have been presented by the various committees, the judgments or the recent events that are there. In polity, in specifically, you have to be very specific, not to be creative and not manufacture points, but you have to give what others have said here. And on that basis, you have to make your argument over here. Third question. Discuss 56 Second Constitutional Amendment Act with reference to the alleged violation of freedom of speech and expression of the elected representatives. So this question is very specific to the aspect of violation of freedom of speech and expression. So again, you will introduce the points. You'll focus here more about the aspect of freedom of speech and expression. And which judgment was it? Quijotto-Holohan case. So you will use that case also, and then if you have a concern, objections, you will present it, and at the end you will write the conclusion. Excuse me. Now the last question. Who knows if you are a bit unfortunate and somebody specifically asks you what was held in the Quijotto-Holohan case. Very specific question. In fact, in 2016, a question was asked what was held in Coelho case. So you need to be very specific. You need to know, and this case is there in the news, even in the recent times. So some 4-5 lines you should have prepared for this, for your answer writing. So, and this case, whichever answer you are writing, this case will come into that. So this is all I have in this particular lecture, and you can share with me your answers on my Telegram group. That is, I'll put it on the Telegram channel, but this is the link over here. I hope you liked the lecture, and if you liked the lecture, please like, share and subscribe. And there's a bell icon also apparently, so click on that also. I know what it does. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye bye.